Welcome back to DBL. Missy Bevers' murder case has captivated North Texas for years. The mother and wife was mysteriously killed inside a church after thousands of tips. Are police any closer to catching her killer? Well, we have an update in DBL's True Crime Chronicles.
Missy Bevers was a beloved wife and mother of 3 living in Red Oak, Texas.
My wife was she was a great woman, a great wife, a great mother, a great friend.
The 45-year-old was a fitness instructor at Creekside Church of Christ in Midlothian, Texas. On April 18, 2016, Missy was scheduled to lead an early morning class. But when her class showed up, they found her body. Missy had been murdered inside the church. According to authorities, the person in this surveillance video is the killer.
I ask everybody out there to review the video. The person has a very distinct walk.
The suspect, wearing police tactical gear, is seen walking through the church the morning Missy was murdered.
There's a lot of split opinions on this case, whether she was targeted or not, whether it was random. Some people see a woman in that video, some people see a man.
Missy died from a head injury, but police won't say what weapon was used.
It's a vital piece of information in this case that we want to protect until we have an opportunity to confront the killer with it.
Missy's brutal murder made national headlines.
The people who showed up for that workout discovered her body instead.
And continues to shock the tiny town in North Texas.
The hardest part for us is just the acknowledgement and not knowing. You know?
Missy had no known enemies, leaving her family and friends baffled.
You have sad moments, you have angry moments, you have moments of where you're up here because you remember all the amazing things that she did and she said.
3 years later, the pain is still raw for the Bevers family. Who murdered Missy?
The morning of April 18, 2016, if you would have told me that we would be in this parking lot talking about this case a year later, I would have thought you were out of your mind.
Earlier, Al, Lindsay, and I spoke with the reporter who has covered the case from the start. Take a look. We are joined by senior reporter Jason Whiteley from WFAA in Dallas, Texas. So, Jason, thank you so much for joining us. This April marks 4 years. So, I need to hear from you. What are police doing today to keep this case in the spotlight? I know that you've become an advocate, so thank you. And are there any new leads?
Yeah, you know, there's a lead here or there, but unfortunately it's not in the spotlight anymore. For all intents and purposes, this is a cold case. It's on the shelf, and that's remarkable because, you know, there are very specific clues. The person seen in the video at the church was wearing a police uniform, had a very unique walk with the right foot kind of, you know, swaying out there, kind of a duck walk as well, too. There was a Nissan sedan seen leaving the scene. There are specific clues, but, you know, law enforcement officers I've talked to said the only way they're going to solve this at this point, almost 4 years later, is if somebody comes forward and tells them what they know.
Well, Mr. Whiteley, let's continue to talk about somebody coming forward because it seems like thousands of people came forward with tips, and at one point you guys even had a suspect. What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, you know, there were more than 2,000 tips that came forward, and a lot of the tips actually come forward for, you know, stories like this when we have conversations publicly about the case. There never was actually a suspect. There were people of interest. Police looked at Brandon Bevers, who was Missy's husband. They cleared him. They looked at Missy's father-in-law. They cleared him. They looked at several other people too and cleared them. You know, it's the person in this tactical gear. They're not even sure if that person is a man or a woman. At least they're not saying it publicly. So they haven't really narrowed down exactly who this is.
And you talked about Missy's husband being a suspect, and he's been cleared. So what does he think? Does he think this is a random attack, or does he think that his wife may have known the killer?
Yeah, you know, all along he said he did not think that she was targeted for any reason. He thought this was just a random attack. But, you know, police looked at this. The Texas Rangers, which is like the state police force, they looked at it as well. Other law enforcement agencies have looked at this. If it was a vandal in there trying to tear up the church, they didn't tear up a lot of things. A lot of things were left undisturbed. If it was a burglar, they didn't take anything else. So law enforcement's pretty clear that this was likely a targeted attack on her. They just haven't figured out exactly why. When they determine that, they might have a clearer path at exactly who may have done this.
And we hope and pray. I mean, Missy and her family deserves justice. So thank you, Jason, for updates. And to read more on this case, visit WFAA.com. We'll be right back.